The last part here is the accessory glands. And the accessory glands are always associated with the small intestine because that's where all of the secretions get dumped into. They don't get dumped into the large intestine. These accessory glands don't get dumped into the stomach. They all get dumped into the small intestine. There are a number of tubes that you can kind of see here. One of the clumpings of tubes are referred to as the biliary apparatus, and that's the stuff that's in green. The yellow guy here is the pancreatic duct. It's the duct that runs through the pancreas. That's it. You can see there's a main, there's an accessory. I don't really care. Pancreatic duct runs through the pancreas. That's all you're going to really need to know about that. We have a little sphincter right here, and it's called the hepatopancreatic sphincter. It used to be called sphincter of Oddi. How much cooler is that? Of course. But it's the hepatopancreatic sphincter, right? That's the sphincter that governs the secretions from the pancreas and the gallbladder or liver, depending on if you have a gallbladder, into that small intestine, into that duodenum. All of this gets dumped into the duodenum there. When we look at this biliary apparatus, it's just a bunch of ducts. So here is the gallbladder, and the gallbladder is what stores bile, doesn't make it. That's the liver, okay? If the gallbladder sits right underneath the liver, they've removed the liver. It sits, right here. We have, right hepatic duct and the left hepatic duct. This is what drains bile from the liver. Again, the liver makes it. And if you're not eating, okay, the hepatopancreatic sphincter is closed. Well, that is what's going to cause this bile to be produced by the liver. And as it comes down here, again, through peristalsis, comes down here, and it actually is going to cause the bile to go into the gallbladder. It goes up through the cystic duct here into the gallbladder. Let's just say it's open, okay? The hepatopancreatic sphincter is open. Gallbladder gets squeezed out of the gallbladder here, goes into the cystic duct, into the common bile duct, into Mrs. Small Intestine. If we look up here again, here's my right hepatic duct and my left hepatic duct. Where those two merge in this small little region right here is called the common hepatic duct. Where the common hepatic duct and the cystic duct merge, now we have our common bile duct. And that extends all the way down here to sphincter of Oddi, and we dump in our bile. There's your biliary apparatus, okay? All it is a collection of tubes that is there to ensure bile gets from the liver to the gallbladder, and then from the gallbladder to the small intestine. Let's say you don't have a gallbladder. Let's say you have gallstones, okay? And you have to have your gallbladder removed. Now you don't store it and concentrate it, okay? So now your liver just produces it and secretes it. Your ability to break down fats diminishes greatly, but I mean, usually this is a issue of you eating way too many damn fats anyway, and you don't have the ability to truly concentrate enough sufficient bile. And so you get these kidney stones that develop within the gallbladder, usually in females, usually in their 40s, usually overweight, and usually very gassy. Why are they gassy? Because they can't produce enough bile to break down fats. And they just pass through the body, get into the large intestine, and then, yeah, gas. Liver's on the right side. Okay, again, it's why that kidney is a little bit lower on that right side. Just immediately underneath the diaphragm. And again, it does a multitude of things, okay? Production of bile is one of them. Some of the other functions, it's going to be involved with recycling old defective red blood cells. It's going to be involved with processing the nutrients that you absorb. All those nutrients that you absorb from the small intestine get delivered up to the liver, and the liver packages them and sends them out to be utilized. If not, it'll store a little bit of it and then send them on its way or convert it into something. Fructose gets delivered here and gets converted into glucose. There's a lot of stuff that happens here. Okay, lactic acid gets sent here and gets reconverted back into glucose. So the liver does 1,001 different things. Bile is the only thing I'm asking of you. There's 4 different lobes. It's not spectacular. One's on the left, one's on the right. It's, they're separated by the falciform ligament. And you can see it right there. Okay, there's a left, there's a right, there's the falciform ligament. Unspectacular. There's the round ligament. You can see it right there. We have a quadrate lobe that looks like a quadrilateral, and a caudate lobe that's on the bottom. Again, unspectacular. Quadrate, caudate. Shaped like a quadrilateral, shaped like nothing, just towards the bottom. Okay. So really nothing spectacular there. I mean, how many lobes? 4. Moving along. You have a round ligament that's at the inferior edge of the falciform ligament. And just remember, it's a remnant of the fetal umbilical vein. Because remember, the infant does not need a digestive system. Okay. They get all their stuff from mom, free of charge. Okay. Question here. When it comes to women and being a little bit gassy, it's not necessarily because of potentially a lack of bile, although it could be. All the hormones that you secrete from the placenta and from the corpus, from the ovary, as the fertilization process is taking place, you get a number of various different hormones. These all help to slow down and relax things. They slow down your digestive tract. So they're going to slow down peristalsis in the small and in the large intestine. They are going to cause relaxation of muscles to allow for the thing to expand. So not only is that muscles there attaching to bones and allow those ligaments to be loose and lax, so you can, your hips can splay out and your vertebral column can flatten out. But it's also going to affect sphincters as well. So it can cause some issues with too much being secreted and then not enough being secreted. You're just a whole bundled mess there. So there's a number of potential reasons as to why you're going to be a lot more gassier than when you are pregnant. Ligamentum venosum. I don't even think they have it. Yeah, they have it labeled right there. And then there's a ligamentum venosum here. It's on the underside. It's a remnant of the ductus venosus. Again, we're bypassing the liver because the placenta delivers all the goods for the growing creature inside. When we look at the histology of the liver, that's where really all the magic is, where everything is happening. Gross anatomy of the liver is exceptionally boring. But it's on the inside where we have blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, bile ducts, nerves. This is referred to as the porta hepatis. And all of these things dump into veins, which get back into the blood. Let's just look at it. Look at it in cross section. Okay. When we look at a liver in cross section, it is nothing but a bunch of octagon shaped liver cells. Okay. Hepatic cells. there it is right there, all highlighted for you. Okay. You can see here's the hepatic lobule. That was the word that I was looking for. Sorry. So you have all of these octagon lobule shaped regions within the liver itself. And here we have a central vein. Trying to look and see what they're looking at. Here is that central vein right here. Here is the artery. Here's the hepatic artery. Here's the hepatic portal vein right there, the blue guy. Okay, so I'll just label them for you. I'm going to do it over here. Hepatic. Hepatic. Hepatic artery. Okay, right there. Then we have an hepatic portal vein. And then the green dude there is just a little bile duct. And that consists of this hepatic portal triad. Okay, there it is. Red dude brings oxygenated rich blood. And again, this is going to be able to phagocytize all defective red blood cells, cleans the blood a little bit. It's going to be involved with absorbing nutrients and maybe processing those, storing them for later use. The hepatic portal vein, it brings in nutrient-rich blood. So this is where all those nutrients from the small intestine are coming to first. They all come here before being delivered throughout the body. The bile duct is only the bile duct, you can see right here. There it is. There's another view of it right there. Bile duct. There's bile canaliculi, tiny little canals, right? That bile duct, all it does is collect the bile that the liver produces and sends it ultimately to the left and right hepatic ducts, common hepatic duct, cystic duct, gallbladder. So blood is coming in and going in this direction here, going this way, okay? Going this way. As we go through there, it's going to pass by all of these here, all of these cells. These are the intestinal cells, good God. These are the liver cells, okay? These liver cells are going to do all their thing, process the nutrients, clean the blood, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Ultimately, it's going to trickle through a bunch of different sinuses that exist, spaces, right, that help to slow fluid movement down through the structure. And it gets into the central vein. Ultimately, all of these central veins merge and carry the blood towards the inferior vena cava. And then ultimately, I believe you know where it goes next. To the heart. Right atrium, tricuspid valve, right ventricle. Bash my head against a wall, right?
Is this unique to the liver that it gets the nutrients from both the arteries and veins?
This is unique because we have oxygen rich, okay? And we have oxygen poor blood. This is going back towards the heart, right? These veins, that by definition. This hepatic portal vein is referred to as the hepatic portal system. The hepatic portal system is just a series of veins right here that drain the small and the large intestine. Where do those suckers come from? Right here. Okay. And as all those tiny venules merge, they form these veins right here. They form these veins right here. And these veins take this nutrient-rich blood, oxygen poor, okay? Not to say it's completely devoid, it's just oxygen poor, all right? Takes that nutrient-rich blood to the liver, and the liver cells can now process all that stuff. As it travels through that hepatic lobule, gets in there to those central veins. All those central veins merge and We have a left and a right hepatic vein. Those dump into the inferior vena cava and head back to the heart. In terms of, is it unique? Yeah, because nobody else is processing nutrients. That wasn't a function of the heart, wasn't a function of the lungs. It's not a function of the spleen, stomach. So yeah, I guess it's unique in that regard. I've never had anybody really ask me that question.
I was just confused because I thought generally it's just the arteries, right, that bring the nutrients and the oxygen everywhere, and then the veins bring it back. But this is like a stop on the way back.
Yes. Now, remember your definition of an artery and vein. Artery is taking it away, veins taking it toward.
Right.
This is just coming back towards the heart. That's it. Okay. So this is where I absorbed all the nutrients. And ultimately, they're going to be conducted back towards the heart, right? To be ultimately pumped back around. And because this thing can't go into an artery and then it can't. It doesn't get absorbed into arterioles. It gets absorbed into these veins, this hepatic portal venous system, right? It doesn't get absorbed into arteries and then continue its route down the leg and then back up.
So these veins, the blood is nutrient rich just because it's coming from the intestines, but the other veins don't have nutrient rich blood necessarily?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It could. It just depends on your need at that moment. Like if you're sitting around just hanging out here, there's not a lot of nutrient demand. Now, if you're going to be up sitting there squatting and running in place, obviously there's a greater nutrient demand, yes? So you would get that out of storage. You get your glycogen out of storage, mobilize fat from your stores, okay? Now, would we have a lot of nutrients in the blood on the arterial side being distributed around? Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, you are welcome. Picture is kind of covering up a few letters here, but the hepatic artery in that hepatic portal triad again is carrying oxygenated blood to the liver. Hepatic portal vein, nutrient rich blood. Okay. Then there's my hepatic veins emptying into the inferior vena cava. Okay. If we look at it even closer, now you can see these hepatocytes a little bit better. Okay. You can see the blood kind of coming in and, oh, hell, it's merging. Okay. And that's cool. That's fine. It's just, it is what it is. We have a number of specialized cells in here. I don't really know. Do they have them labeled at all? They usually do. They've been given a different name. These are some specific macrophages that only are found within the liver. They're called stellate cells. They're just there kind of walking around, going in between one adjacent liver cell, hepatocyte, to the next hepatocyte. Their old school name, which changed shockingly just this past year, is called a Kupffer cell. So most everybody refers to them as Kupffer cells still, but Stellate cells is the cell that they want you to know. So that is the one that I will ask on the exam if I was to ask about it. Okay. But just like the lungs have their own macrophage, the liver has its own macrophage, and this is what helps to clean up the blood. Okay. Anything that shouldn't be there that's been absorbed, these Kupffer cells, stellate cells are what clean up the act. Bile, again, it's also secreted by the liver cells, the hepatocytes. You can see it contains a bunch of stuff here. Bile helps to emulsify fats or digest fats. Okay, that's bile's function if you do not know. All right. You can see bile contains a whole heck of a lot of stuff there. Bile salts, cholesterol, the stuff called lecithin. When bile gets secreted, it helps to emulsify fats. Fats don't like water. So bile helps to, I'm going to make a substance here. Okay. This is a fat molecule. When bile secretes, it surrounds it. Let me change that color. There we go. What are you doing? Okay, so here's my fat. Bile gets secreted, and it helps to emulsify fat. What the hell is an emulsifier? Well, an emulsifier surrounds the fat molecule. Okay. Lecithin. This allows the fat molecule to travel in a watery medium. Lipids don't like water. Okay. So I put them in this little bubble. Okay. And bile helps to bring this fat that really started to become digested in the stomach through lingual lipase activation and a little bit of gastric lipase. This allows that enzyme action to still kind of continue here. And we bring it closer to the intestinal cell, the enterocyte. Once we get it close to it, then the intestinal cells, they secrete their brush border enzymes and they bring it in across. But it always, it helps macrophage, bile, digest lipids. Okay. I don't know if I'd ask you what the heck's in it because it doesn't really matter. It's bile salts, cholesterol, bicarbonate ions. There's a bunch of stuff in it. But all it does is help to emulsify or break down fats. Okay. And that's what liver does. I don't think I have a picture of them. When you eat a lot more fat in your diet, you don't allow bile to sit within the gallbladder, okay? And all it does is store and concentrate the bile. When we concentrate the bile, what does that entail? Well, when that hepatopancreatic sphincter is closed, it actually causes an event to occur within the gallbladder where we pull out water. This helps to concentrate it. So when you do consume fats, you only have to secrete a little bit. If for some reason you consume a heck of a lot of fat in your diet, then you're having to secrete or release a lot of bile to break down that fat. And you don't sufficiently concentrate it enough. And you get left behind, a higher percentage of calcium salts, calcium rocks, bile salts, and all those congeal into those stones, those gallstones. They can eventually cause a blockage of the cystic duct, and sphincter vodi will open up the sphincter at the opening of the gallbladder, and it'll try to secrete, but nothing will happen. And then that's when you get all that kind of pain in that, where that gallbladder is, right underneath the liver, or shooting up to your subscapular region there on that right side. So again, happens mostly in women. It's called the 4Fs, fat, 40, flatulent female. That's who primarily has it. Woman who is obese, who is very gassy, who eats a lot of fat, and is in her 40s. So that's generally the person most common. But you see a lot of it now with women in their 30s. So I don't know what that means. It means a really crappy diet. You'll notice it a hell of a lot more when you eat a fatty meal. Don't eat a lot of fat. You won't have a lot of issues. Eat the right kinds of fats. That's not to say get rid of fats. Don't do that. Good God Almighty. Okay, you won't produce hormones, and then you'll have a whole world of hurt on you that you won't want to experience. There it is. Last thing we got here in terms of accessory stuff is going to be the pancreas. Pancreas is unique. Pancreas is unique because of what it does. It does two things. It has an endocrine function where it secretes hormones, insulin and glucagon, okay, involved with sugar utilization. And it also has an exocrine function where it secretes what's called pancreatic juice. And all that is digestive juices. Okay, it's digestive enzymes. All of these digestive enzymes that we'll be talking about, that I've talked about already later, all of those happen right here. Okay. Insulin, glucagon, somatostatin, secretin, cholecystokinin, all of these things are secreted by cells here within the small intestine and acting on the pancreas, the liver, gallbladder, to release all of their stuff. It is retroperitoneal. It looks like a weird worm or fish when you look at it on dissection. Kind of creepy looking. It has a head, it has a body, it has a tail. I don't really care. Doesn't matter. You don't need to worry about that. But you do need to worry about its functions and the types of cells that are involved with these functions. That is what is different. That is what is unique when it comes to the pancreas. We have two groups of cells. We have pancreatic islets and we have pancreatic acini cells. And you can see them there, what they look like under a microscope, and an artist rendition over there on the other side. The pancreatic islets, you can see right there. The pancreatic acini cells, this is what they do. The pancreatic islet cells, they are involved with the hormones, insulin, glucagon. Those are the two major ones. We have alpha cells, beta cells, delta cells, F cells. There's whole bunches of cells associated with the pancreatic islets. Okay. Modified simple cuboidal. Okay, I don't know if I'd ask that, but I mean, I did ask a few questions involving histology of the various different systems that we've talked about here in this last little bit. They secrete a number of different things. What are those different things? Well, here are some of them. They produce a bicarbonate type of secretion as well that helps to buffer. So it is going to have some bicarbonate in it that will act as a buffer. Again, this is dumping into the duodenum, very highly acidic. So one of the components of this pancreatic juice is going to be bicarbonate to help buffer that. But we have a number of enzymes that are involved with breaking down those macros. And again, I'm just asking about macros, or potentially asking about the macros: carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. I'm not worried about breaking down nucleic acids. It happens. Yes, it's not one of the major macros. So ultimately, I don't really care about it. Amylase, lipase, proteases. And I believe I talk about the specific proteases a little bit later when we talk about digestion of the macros. Proteases is just a general catch-all term. There are a multitude of various different ones. And I think I give two or three of them. I can't remember, two of them down when we talk about the digestion of the macros of proteins. Amylase, lipase, and proteases. Amylase helps to digest starch. ASE is an enzyme. Amylase, carb. LIP, lipid. ASE, enzyme, digesting your triglycerides. We have lingual lipase. Lingual means what?
Tongue?
Yep. Lingual means tongue. So the tongue is involved with secreting lipase. I have pancreatic lipase. So who does pancreatic lipase get secreted by?
The pancreas.
See, it is that damn easy, folks. Any of you could have answered that. Proteases. Proteases, just like the stomach, they usually get secreted as an inactive form and then act with something to become active. Who cares? Proteases get secreted by the pancreas. And we'll talk about those later when we look at those. Okay. All of these secretions are in what is collectively referred to as the pancreatic juice. Okay. So if you have pancreatic cancer, why is it a death sentence? You're not secreting any damn digestive enzymes. You can't absorb as much stuff. Very little. Severe malnutrition. Pancreatic amylase, pancreatic lipase, the pancreatic proteases, they help to break down these things into smaller components. Okay. Carbohydrate digestion ceases within the stomach. Too acidic. Kills the enzyme. Okay, so that's why pancreatic amylase is important. Lipids, proteins, they start the process in the stomach, but they don't get completely broken down to their individual components of glyceride and free fatty acid chains. That happens because of the pancreatic lipase and the pancreatic proteases in the intestinal cells. But the intestinal cells, they only secrete one type of digestive enzyme, okay, for each macro. But it's to break it in from a disaccharide into a monosaccharide. And it can't break down a oligosaccharide into a monosaccharide. It doesn't have the capability to do that. It can only cleave off one amino acid or one glucose molecule at a time. So pancreatic cancer is death sentence because it usually takes a while to get diagnosed. And then by the time you've got it diagnosed, you're into multiple stages of this.
What was the name of the intestinal cell that you said earlier? Just a general intestinal cell.
Enterocyte, ENTEROCYTE.
Okay.
Enterocyte is what some books will just call an intestinal cell. And I'll mention it here. Insulin and glucagon secreted by those pancreatic islets. Insulin gets secreted when glucose enters the blood. So after you eat some carbs and they start to flood into the system, into the blood, insulin gets secreted to basically allow glucose to be taken up by a cell. When you start to fall below normal glucose levels, glucagon gets secreted to get your glycogen stores to break down sugar. Glycogen is the storage form of glucose in our body. And so glucagon, gets secreted by the pancreas to enact on that glycogen to get it to be converted into glucose again. So now your cells can take up glucose and it can make energy. So that's what insulin and glucagon does. Just briefly. And they have specific cells that secrete them. Glucagon is secreted by alpha cells, insulin secreted by beta cells. So if you're somebody who is a type 2 diabetic, you burn those beta cells out. Okay, and that's why you that's why you use insulin injections. Even though through diet and exercise, you can generally prevent that. Type 1 diabetic, you don't have beta cells, so you need to have the daily injection. You need to have it injected probably multiple times a day. You monitor it closely. Again, proper diet is going to be very necessary at that point, but diet and exercise can't cure type 1 diabetes. Last thing are a couple of hormonal secretions here, cholecystokinin and secretin. I usually shorthand it CCK. Cholecystokinin gets secreted by the small intestinal cells in response to fat. Cholecystokinin is what really causes all the action to occur. It stimulates the gallbladder, it stimulates the pancreas to release that bile, to release the digestive juices, the pancreatic juice. Cholecystokinin does a number of things. It causes the kickstart of all those cells to start doing their secretion. It relaxes the sphincter of Oddi, or the hepatopancreatic sphincter, to allow all that material to enter into the duodenum. It also inhibits the motility of the stomach and causes that pyloric sphincter to tighten back up so we can properly digest our stuff. Secretin is also released from the small intestine. So those enterocytes, they're doing the releasing here. This is generally stimulated by an increase in acidity of content, obviously coming from the stomach here. We get a bicarbonate secretion that helps to buffer that acidic chyme. Again, it also has a feedback on the stomach, causing it to inhibit its secretions. So it slows down that that stomach churning that happens. Tightens up that sphincter. Okay. As soon as that material passes through there, receptor cells realize it, allow that reflux to occur there at the pyloric sphincter, opens back up again, and we do it all over again. And again, depending upon the content of your food, will really depend on how long the material stays within the small intestine, stay within the large intestine.